My name is Linda. I'm 54 years old, married to a kind, stable man named George. We've been together for over 25 years, we raised kids, built a life, went through storms and sunshine together. George has a daughter from his first marriage, Emily. I met her when she was 13, awkward, shy, and hurting from her parents' divorce. Over the years, I grew close to her, maybe closer than most stepmothers do. Emily eventually got married and had a son, Alex. I still remember holding that little boy when he was just a few days old, soft, tiny, and innocent. I used to whisper in his ear, telling him how much I'd love him like my own grandchild. And I did. From school projects to birthday parties, I was always there. Alex would visit us every summer. I spoiled him like any grandmother would, baking his favorite cookies, letting him stay up late watching movies. But time changes everything. Little boys grow up, and sometimes, they grow into people you no longer recognize. When Alex turned 21, something about him had shifted. He was no longer that quiet kid who used to draw on the kitchen table. He had grown tall, confident, with that cocky charm young men have when they're just discovering their power in the world. That summer, Emily asked if Alex could stay with us for a few weeks. He was doing an internship nearby, and our house was closer. I didn't think twice. Of course he could. He was family. The first few days were normal. We'd chat over breakfast, laugh about silly things, and I'd listen to his stories about college life and his new independence. But then I started noticing little things. The way his eyes lingered when I walked by, or how he'd casually compliment me, not in the innocent, boyish way I was used to. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was just uncomfortable with the idea that my little Alex had grown into a man. One evening, George was away for work, and it was just the two of us in the house. I made dinner, pasta, wine, and a small dessert. We talked for hours, and it felt surprisingly easy. He asked me about my marriage, my dreams, even things I hadn't told anyone in years. The way he looked at me, it made me feel seen. I didn't realize how much I missed that. George was loving, yes, but after decades together, the romance fades, the conversations dull. Alex, on the other hand, made me feel alive again, like I was still desired. I remember the moment everything changed. I was doing the dishes when he came up behind me and said, "You're too beautiful to be washing dishes." I laughed awkwardly, but before I could respond, I felt his hand brush against mine. My heart started pounding. It was wrong, I knew it, but I didn't move away immediately. That hesitation was the moment that destroyed everything. The days that followed were filled with tension. Every look, every word carried a weight I couldn't ignore. One afternoon, I was in the garden reading when he came out and sat beside me. He told me I looked lonely. And I was. He leaned in, too close, whispering that he'd never met anyone like me. And I let him. I let him touch my hand, trace his fingers across my skin, and before I knew it, we crossed that invisible line that should have never been crossed. The guilt hit me like a wave after it was over. I avoided looking at myself in the mirror. I couldn't face George, couldn't even face the part of me that knew I'd betrayed not only my husband but an entire family that trusted me. But Alex didn't seem to feel the same remorse. He'd smile at me like it was our little secret. That scared me more than anything, how easily he accepted what we'd done. I tried to end it the next morning. I told him it was a mistake, that it could never happen again. He didn't argue. He just looked at me and said, "You're the one who didn't stop it." Those words haunted me. He was right. I didn't stop it. And that realization made me hate myself even more. Things spiraled fast after that. George came home, and I tried to act normal. But Alex was different. He became distant, cold, sometimes even cruel in subtle ways. I started fearing that he might tell someone. Every time my phone rang, my stomach dropped. I'd lie awake at night imagining my life crumbling, my marriage destroyed, my reputation gone, my stepdaughter hating me forever. Then, one evening, Emily called. She said Alex had been acting strange since he came back home, that he seemed burdened, secretive. My throat went dry. I asked her what she meant, but she said she didn't know, only that he'd told her he saw people differently now. I don't know if she suspected anything, but that conversation sent me into a panic. For weeks, I lived in fear. I avoided family gatherings, made excuses, even pretended to be sick to avoid seeing Emily or Alex. The guilt ate away at me until I couldn't sleep or eat properly. I tried to confess to George several times, but every time I looked at him, at the man who had stood by me through everything, my voice failed me. How could I destroy him with the truth? Months passed, and Alex stopped contacting me altogether. I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd moved on. But the silence was almost worse than his presence. One day, out of nowhere, he texted me, "I think about you more than I should." My heart sank. I deleted the message immediately, terrified that George might see it. I blocked his number, hoping it would end there. But secrets have a way of finding light. A few weeks later, Emily came over unexpectedly. She looked upset, confused. She told me Alex had confessed to her that something happened between him and a married woman. He didn't say my name, but she said he'd been staying here at the time. She asked me, point blank, if I knew anything about it. I froze. I denied it, of course, but I could see in her eyes that she didn't believe me. That was the last time she visited. Since then, the distance between us has only grown. George doesn't know what really happened, at least, not yet. But I see the suspicion in his eyes sometimes, the way he looks at me like he's trying to figure something out. Maybe he senses the change, the guilt that hangs over me like a storm cloud. I live with that mistake every single day. It's not the kind of guilt that fades, it stays, breathing down your neck, reminding you of who you were in that one moment of weakness. I betrayed my husband, my stepdaughter, and even that innocent boy I once held in my arms. The hardest part is knowing that I can never undo it. If you're listening to this, maybe you're judging me, and you should. I deserve it. But if there's anything I've learned, it's that temptation doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it walks into your home wearing a familiar face, one you've loved and trusted. And if you're not careful, a single moment can turn into a lifetime of regret. So, that's my story. The truth I never thought I'd speak out loud. I never imagined that my stepgrandson would be the one to break my heart, and that I'd be the one to ruin my own life.